Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. My name is Anthony C. hosting. It is our program Focus on Liberia, hosted on Focus on Liberia and Prime FM 105.5 in Monrovia, Liberia. Welcome and welcome to the broadcast. Another edition again of our program Focus on Liberia on Prime FM 105.5. This is the Saturday edition. The topic for today's discussion is the political economy and what is in the 2022 budget for the Liberian people. To discuss this very important topic, we have a guest. His name is Mr. Benjamin Kofa Fania. He is a 2023 presidential aspirant. Mr. Kofa Fania, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Yes, Mr. Anthony, it's always a pleasure to be here. I look forward to fruitful and very friendly dialogue. Anthony, I want to say thank you for your station and all the good work you do. I'm happy to be here, and I will always respond to any invitation that you extend to me. Thank you, and welcome to all of our other guests. Thank you.
All right. Also here to discuss this very serious and important topic is Mr. Depu Y. Zuo. He is a member of Focus on Liberia Business and Economic Forum called FOL Marketplace. He is an economist, by the way. Mr. Zuo, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you so much, Anthony, and welcome to Benjamin, and good evening to our people in Liberia and also our citizens across the United States.
All right. Also here and seated, ready to roll, is Professor Larry Kennedy, a member of Focus on Liberia Business and Economic Forum, style FOL Marketplace. Larry, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me again, Anthony. And let me say welcome to Brother Ben. I guess this is your first time on the FOL Marketplace. I want to say welcome, and hopefully we'll be able to listen to you and share, that wealth of knowledge that we always see you posting on social media. Maybe you can bring some of that to light over here tonight.
All right.
A very technical problem that we faced here in studio, but thanks to the technician who have worked very high behind the camera and going up and down. So we are joining our guys from the United States of America, Anthony C. Larry Kennedy, and the rest are all seated in studio there. The discussion already started. We're late, about 30 minutes. I'm 30 minutes late. We apologize. I'm sure you've been listening. So we're going to join that now so that we can bring you this discussion tonight on Prime 105.5. And this is Focus on Liberia. So, Anthony, can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear, and we want to say thank you for resolving the issues there. And folks in Liberia, in Radio Land, I'm Anthony C. hosting here at the program Focus on Liberia. Welcome. Came to call a friend to join you and listen to the radio. The topic for today's discussion is the political economy of Liberia and what is in the budget 2022 for the Liberian people. Our panelists and our guest, Benjamin Kofa Fania, they are all seated to get the discussion started. To get started, folks, the budget, we know it to be a tool, and is a legal tool because it's passed into law by the national legislature, and that is why the government of Liberia uses to carry on all of its activities, the funding of the government, and also programs and projects. So we are going to be looking at what is in the budget for the Liberian people, and we will be talking about the political economy. We cannot discuss the political economy without looking at policies and programs that the government has put into place to implement for the benefit of the Liberian people. To get started, I will bring in my partner here, Mr. Larry Kennedy. Larry, let's get started like this. Budget is a tool and it's legal. And also policy. I know that if you have a policy and you don't have the budget to support it, you're not going anywhere. So talk to me the difference between budget and policy?
So the policy is more like the strategy. Let's just put it, let's say you're going to go play a football game. Your strategy, or let's say you're going to play like PSG, one of the top European teams out there. You might have a strategy saying, okay, look, we will shut down people like Neymar. We will shut down the top players on this team, the Messi and all the guys then.
Right.
But that's your strategy. But do you have the tools, meaning do you have the essential players on your team to shut them down? You can have a pro-poor policy. That's a policy. Usually policies are big, audacious ideas everybody wants to achieve. But do you have the money? Do you have the budget? Do you have the tools to meet those objectives? Remember now, the pro-poor agenda was a policy to take almost like 1 million people out of poverty? But did they have the budget, the resources, the tools to get 1 million people out of poverty? So having the budget that's saying, look, these are all the big things we want to do. But at the same time, do you have, and tools can also include the knowledge. Do you have the right people at the right place to do the right job? You can say you want to build a house. If you don't have a hammer, you don't have nails, you don't have carpenter. If you want to get a plumber to do carpentry work, you're going to have a problem. You're going to end up building a toilet rather than build a house. So if you're going to do something, you need to have the right people in place. You need to have the right equipment, and you need to have the right strategy. So the budget is this roadmap that they put before the Liberian people. But is that roadmap taking the people in the right direction? Or is it just, some fairy tale that they can never achieve? Trying to chase like a unicorn or something, you would never get it. Or a white elephant. You're not going to succeed in doing that. So yeah, I think for the most part, the Liberian budget, $785.5 million, is huge, is massive. Do they have the ability to raise that money? And what portion of that money would be going towards the poor people as opposed to enjoying some fancy clothes and fancy flights and traveling the world? So that's why I think people need to understand policies, the strategy to get you where you want to go. Budget, what you intend to do when you get that money. Okay? So
thank you. And let me come to Mr. Depuzuo, who is our resident economist here, if I can pull it that way. Therefore, Larry lay it out there. You can have the best policy. If you don't have the money to implement it, you are going nowhere. You are an economist. You are more about improving the living standard of the people using all the economic opportunities, how you maximize them. How can you maximize the implementation of your policy effectively and at the same time streamlining your budget that match, so that it matches your priority? How can you do that?
Thank you. It seems to be that the question is more than the answer that you are giving. Let's take the policy gives direction, and we'll say where you go, and the budget is what you need to go to where you want to go. So, and in terms of answering the question, what, it means that you have to take into consideration the available resources you have, whether be it human, be it financial capital. You need to look at all the available resources you have and apply it appropriately. And within that, you need to make sure that your appropriation is matching your ability to finance what you have appropriated. So in budgeting, the major thing that there is knowing your resources, your sources of income, revenue, and expenditure. And when you do that, it gives you the opportunity to say, okay, we can prioritize X, Y, Z, we can prioritize road, we can prioritize agriculture or health based on what we have. And interestingly, what is happening now is that this year budget is the first budget after the transition period. Liberia have been running budget from June to July 1st to June 30, and this is the first budget that's actually going by the calendar year. So in preparing such a budget, the team needed to have taken into consideration some of the what we call hidden, opportunities and also cost that will require in that transition period. So this year's budget, to me, is very ambitious, and you look into it, you see clearly that there are some areas that will have some challenges in terms of ability to finance or to perform as a budget. And the country, as far as I'm concerned, the global economy is having problems, then what's about Liberia? So we have a huge budget, but how to raise the money to meet the expenditure as required and also as stipulated is another thing. So that's what I think we need to look at tonight.
Thank you. Our guest, Mr. Benjamin Kofafania, is a politician running for office. Then three things: policy, politics, budget. As a politician, these are the three cardinal, things you have to use. So talk to me. How do you use these tools to meet the needs of your people?
Okay, the first thing I want to say, thanks to our two guests. I think they gave good answers, but I would like to say this: from 1990 up to now, the budgets we have had in Liberia, from 1990 up to now, it shows that every administration in Liberia had what I call zero vision, zero, because budgets must have a goal. They should have a stated goal. When they are proposing or when they are announcing it to us, they should tell us this budget is meant to do X, Y, and Z. I've never heard that before. And the most important criteria when you are vying to be elected, like I am doing right now, you put out what you call your agenda. That means your plans, what you hope to do for the people. Because the goal, when we seek office, the goal is to better the lives of our people. You have your agenda items. When you win an election, your agenda item turns to what you call policies. Budget then is used as the method of financing your policies. Now, in Liberia, as we speak right now, let me just give as we speak, it breaks my heart. In the great United States, you guys can check it right now. 65% of the budget in America, that's $5.5 trillion. 65% of that money is budgeted to go back to the American people. I'm trying to tell you that the budget is designed to improve the lives of citizens. That's your policy, that's your agenda for the lives of your people to improve on a year-to-year basis. Now, let's look at Liberia. From 1990 up to now, because successive administrations have had no vision for the people, the budget has ignored Liberians. There is not one item anyone on this program can show me today that, oh, they projected this for the Liberian people and it had this impact on their lives. Let me give you one thing before I stop. In America, like I said, 65%.
And Ben, do you know what percentage is allotted in the budget for the people?
Where?
In Liberia. You just said that for US. Do
you know what I'm saying? I have
allotted for Liberia?
Zero. In Liberia, budget has become payroll for incompetent politicians. But let me give you one thing.
Are you sure? Because they have social development, they have infrastructure development. There are so many sectors for the people.
Let me tell you why I say that. I have in my hand here what they call a budget performance report. I will come to that.
Okay.
When you craft budget for 1 year, before you design another one for the next year, you need to review something called a budget performance report. How effective was your planning? How effective were the programs that you funded? But we have total absence of that. What we do in Liberia, we cut and paste. There's the same thing these people did, so we will cut and paste the same thing with no emphasis on the impact those programs are having. I will tell you this: from 1990 to now, I have the statistics. The UN state that poverty in Liberia continue to rise. But let me tell you, let me tell you the other side. No, the last thing,
please.
The lives of politicians in Liberia continue to get better. So
you think these politicians, they are not here with policies backed by their budget, but they're here with politics for their own benefit. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
That's what I'm saying in plain terms. They have no program for the people. They only have program for themselves. And my last point, in Liberia, we have health care for lawmakers, $10,000 check, but there's no health care for the citizens. That's terrible. Thank
All
you.
right. Benjamin Kofafania, presidential aspirant 2023, giving his opening there. And let me come to Larry here again. Larry, Joe Biden said, and I quote, "Don't tell me what you value. Show me your budget, and I will tell you what you value." We have a budget. If you look at the budget, give me your overall assessment here. Do you see something in there for the Liberian people that you believe will have an impact on them?
Remember now, the Pro-Poor agenda, the whole concept of Pro-Poor came out back in the 60s and 70s, and the whole idea behind Pro-Poor was to allocate a majority of your budget to elevate the poor people. When you look at the budget over the past, let's say, 3 years or so, a majority of that budget hasn't gone towards elevating the people or taking the people out of poverty.
Okay.
In fact, what it has done in 2021, I believe it was the World Bank that came out and said an additional 1.5% of the Liberian population went into poverty. So Joe Biden is saying, look, don't tell me what you're going to do, because politicians will come and will say all these things they're going to do. You know, they will say how they're going to burn down the mansion and rebuild it overnight. They will say a whole lot of nonsense. But then when you see the budget, which is the roadmap in terms of how to achieve what it is that they're setting to do, the budget tells the story. A lot of this budget has recurring expenditures in it. It's used to, and Ben is right on that one. They're using the budget to kind of pay themselves, to pay salaries. The budget is not developed in such a way to put more of it in education. Name one country that has developed without building the education sector. It's insane. You're not going to build your country if you don't develop the people, if you don't let the people that go to school. You have your population growing at a rate of 2.7%. So that means there's a lot of young girls who should be in school. They are not in school. Consequently, because of that situation, you have the birth rate that is extremely, one of the highest in sub-Saharan Africa. People need to be in school. The budget is not, and Biden is right again. Look at the budget. We're spending money on foreign trips that haven't yielded anything back to the Liberian people. They were spending money on lobbyists with the whole bunch of people that they pay on average, about $55,000 a month for lobbyists. What has it actually yielded? In fact, the lobbying effort was less effective than some other lobbying efforts that led to Liberia not receiving anything on the MCC compact. But that's another story. I'm sure we'll probably get into that. So the budget is out there. It's used to pay salaries. It's used to fatten the wallet of the politicians. A very little portion of it is going to the healthcare sector. The politicians can afford to leave Liberia when they're sick, but the poor people stay there. And what happens? They go use the local healthcare system, and the healthcare system is not good. Well, we have one doctor to how many people? 15,000. I think it's probably one to maybe 10,000 or so. It's ridiculous. So Biden. So when you hear politicians saying, "Oh yeah, we're doing this with it," no, let me see your budget. Let's see what you have in the budget.
Thank you. And Ben, hold on, I will get to you. Let me come to Mr. Zoya. Therefore, when you look at the budget, it's divided into sectors. We have the agricultural sector. We have educational sector. My understanding is that these are sectors that are actually meant to improving the material condition of the people. What I'm hearing from Ben and Larry is, well, this thing is just on paper. In practice, all the money going to the people, or even what they have allotted for them, and not even reaching the people, is struggling in individuals' pockets. Is that what it is, or something is filtering to the people here? Looking at the sectors.
Yes, thank you. In terms of sectoral appropriation, you will see that there should have been a priority setting, and according to President Weah, his priorities role and agriculture. And when you set your eye and just look at at a glance of the budget, you realize that, yes, there are some appropriation made for road, which is also backed by this assistance from the international partner and the Road Fund Act. Those are something that we feel that it will still be done. But the reality there is that not much is appropriated for agriculture, which is now considered as the mainstream and the whole, we'll call it the lifeline of the people is the agriculture. So that itself is not giving attention. That itself means that there's a shortfall coming soon in the agriculture sector. Performance will decline, and we already feeling it now that productivity in terms of agriculture production is low. Rice, which is our one of the major staple, is an imported goods. It's not locally produced. Cassava that is also supposed to feed the people. There's no financing into agriculture. So as a result, that's the area where the budgeting process fell short. And besides that, besides the agriculture and infrastructure, in terms of, we're talking about what is there for the people. If you check the propos, you're talking about, power to the people means that you're talking about education, you're talking about health, you're talking about women, gender issue. These are places where you give power to the people by empowering them, by financing the activity, giving them what they deserve. So these areas, we still did not meet target on that. Notwithstanding, it's a huge budget. Is the budget balloon in such a way that you wonder about why this huge increase? But when you go into detail in terms of expenditure, you realize that the alignment is not done appropriately.
And
a program that not so recurrent expenditure. There no major program, even the PSRP, which is Public Sector Investment Program,
right,
it's very much small. So therefore, it is not addressing the needs of the people. That's the best way I can.
And therefore, I want you to end on this. I'm looking at the agricultural sector. I know this is not the only money and the additional money that go into this sector coming from donors, but this is a government. So if we didn't have any other contribution coming from outside sources, the only money the government has set aside for agriculture to feed our people or its people is 8.5 million, representing just 1.1%. And that $8.5 million is less money allotted by our government for the agricultural sector than what the government has set aside for the Ministry of Presidential Affairs. So more money for Ministry of Presidential Affairs from the government and less money from the government for agriculture.
Thank you. Since you go into the figure,
our government in terms of the priority being on the people.
That's what I'm saying. So the key area where you get putting bread, putting bread on the table areas were left out. Interestingly, it's good that you're going to the figure. You go to the figure, the $8.1 million that is appropriated, interestingly, is also about salary. So what do you think about agriculture extension services? Because these are main driver of growth. You need to have extension officers with the priority to ensure that they do extension education, monitor farmers, and look at the various regions and see how best they can work with CARI to ensure that they do agricultural research in terms of crop multiplication and productivity in the agriculture sector. But if you check, very minimal contribution that comes from government. But one thing I want to say here is that should we take the Ministry of State budget, for example, to be a budget that will be spreading across the country? What would be the impact? Because one of the things that there is that you also need to be looking at the impact of your expenditure. If the presidential budget is higher than agriculture, are there activities that will be implemented that will also have a return or ripple effect opportunity in the agriculture sector? These are some of the things when you're doing the analysis. If not, It's just if the money is just there for festival and other, political activity, then that means the issue of
And therefore the question is, if what is in there is not for agriculture, not trickling to the people, even though intended for them in a very agricultural sector, how can we then believe that whatever is in the budget for the Ministry of Presidential Affairs is going to get to the people when it is not intentional, for that purpose in the first place?
Honestly, that's budget is a political tool. So if they want to use a political tool, then you got to speak. You got to put your money to where your mouth is. That's what we're saying here. Since you, as a president, you come and say the priority is rural and agriculture, which have been pronounced, and the citizens are aware of it. And huge of the money have been appropriated to the Ministry of State, more than Agriculture Ministry, more than Education Ministry. Why you need to do that? What are the presidential activities that actually going to be, that will be affecting or that will be done in this sector if you cannot make appropriation? So these are some of the questions that we're asking. So it's very much, it's not balanced. It is more a political budget that is prepared to prepare the government for 2023, but not knowing that it has its own effect, because the people of Liberia right now, as we speak, the commodity rice price had gone up. The president got to visit the warehouse. The reason why he went to Freeport is to see, put the food up. To visit warehouse is one thing, and the rice reaching to the people is another thing. And the government's own ability to say, look, we are going to provide opportunity for farmers. And say, look, as of now, we are providing farming equipment. Appropriating, let's say $1 million to just buy tractors and 2 equipment rental for farmers. Or you say you want to be looking at other tools for farmers and provide that to farmers without using donor money. That is demonstrate your commitment and willingness as a president or as a government to say you want to lift your people.
Thank you.
Without these,
before
it's a lip service.
Anthony, let me just piggyback off what your question is.
So bring back
and I will throw it over to Ben. So Ben, the question is really coming your way. One of the issues, and this following up with Depu, right? One of the issues we have, and this is what economists like Demisa Moya and Westerly and all these, even Asemoglu and Robinson, they said in the book Why Nations Fail. African countries tend to rely on foreign aid as a way to rescue them. And I'm kind of looking at the comment over here from Elvis Morris, because we don't have much of a safety net in Liberia, right? So what we tend to do is we tend to kind of rely on foreign aid to kind of save us. We waited for foreign aid for Ebola. When Ebola hit us, country that produces rubber didn't have latex gloves. We waited for foreign aid as a safety net when COVID hit. So my question to you, Mr. Ben, what would be your strategy as a politician? What do you think would be the strategy to get Liberia off this reliance on foreign aid?
Okay, the first thing I want to say is it is interesting for us to be dialoguing like this. But what hurts me with what we're doing now is that is evidence of the lack of leadership in Liberia. Budgets, when they are designed, they have to be debated. They have to be debated. Now look at our lawmakers. Budget are passed with what you call 5G speed. The appropriations need to make sense. The allotments need to make sense. We have members of our legislature that are predominantly opposition, and they say George Weah. But the budget goes to the House of Representatives first. The appropriations that we talk about here, they have to be debated. But guess what happened? They get passed. So for me, it's a failure of leadership on all sides. The executive will come out and propose the budget. The legislature have to debate it. And, kind of, sometimes they even send the budget back because it has to make sense. Now, let me go to one point that you raised. You talk about the pro-poor agenda. The pro-poor agenda had something that I thought Liberians would have rejected. 12 went on Spoon, and he said the pro-poor was designed to elevate or remove 5,000 Liberians out of poverty. A nation of almost 5.1 million people, and you design a program that will only improve the life of 5,000 people. It's a design that is meant to fail. It makes no sense.
I think in the document it said 1 million.
No. The question said 5,000. I got it. You can go on Spoon TV. It's there. He said 5,000 people. Okay, but now let me tell you. Let me come to your point. Liberia is not poor. Liberia is simply poorly managed. Governance, rule of law can make Liberia to be transformed in the space of 5 years. The problem with Liberia is we employ our friends, relatives, and loved ones, and we do not hold them accountable. I will tell you this. In 2016, now listen to this, $500 million, you can research it, was sent out of Liberia. In 2016, again, 2 years in a row, over $500 million was transferred out of Liberia. You're talking about within the space of 2 years, $1 billion. So we have the resources, but the problem is we are not managing them well. And we are not holding people who abuse their authority and their power. We are not holding them to account. I will just say this last thing before I close. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's son, he was at NOCAL, and the GAC, I'm not speaking, the GAC audited, and they said NOCAL went bankrupt. Almost $240 million disappeared. We don't know where it went. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf showed up and said, well, I take responsibility for what happened here, and that case died. All I'm trying to say is we do not need to depend on external sources of funding. We only need to manage what we have. We have the land, we have the reason, we have rubber, we have cocoa, we have diamond, we have everything you think about. But we have been trained, I mean, it's what the white people call learned helplessness. We have been trained to beg. You know, we go to the World Bank. The World Bank gave us, you know, this amount of money, and we think it's okay. No. We have to be innovative. We can design programs to improve our own lives, but the system is designed where we are trained to beg, and that is what I want to change, because I want to bring Liberia to a stage where we will be innovators. We will do things differently from what we're doing now, and we will manage our resources well, and we will hold people accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. And Larry, let me bring you in, and let us talk about policy and politics as it relates to the budget. Because what I continue to see here is when people get to power, they tend to weigh heavily on politics as compared to policy that should be backed by the budget, right? So this rice issue came up, Larry, and the president made what I consider a political statement that rice price will never go up. Is there a policy on rice to maintain it? And if there is, every policy must be backed by a budget. Do we know what is in the budget to maintain this rice price from being stable or to go down and will not go up as the president said it? What do you know, Larry?
This, I believe, was strictly political because in a free market economy, you do not simply control the price of any commodity by simply saying, oh, I told the rice importers not to raise prices and then they will do it. That's not how supply and demand works, right? Mm-hmm. If you're going to say you're going to maintain the price of rice at a certain level, under $14, whatever the case may be, then you need to have money in your budget to kind of to sustain that policy. You need to have money in your budget because now what you're saying is you're going to find a way to either put more rice in the market in order to keep the prices low, or you're going to be able to give the people their money. It goes back to what one of our viewers was saying, Elvis, that you need to have a safety net that will put money in the people's pocket, similar to the stimulus check that the U.S. Put out there. We don't have that kind of safety net in Liberia. There's no policy in place to prevent the price of rice from rising. The only thing he has done is this whole thing about executive orders. They've been doing, Madam Sirleaf was doing this executive order for the rice importers. Mm-hmm. President Weah came in and he started doing executive orders. There is no policy in place. So if it's costing the people who are importing rice, if the price of fuel, if the price of shipping, if all that those prices go up, how can they continue selling it below $14? It's not going to happen. What they're going to do is they're going to limit the amount of rice in the market and create artificial shortages. Or they're going to sell the product somewhere else where they can get more money. So that's no policy. So right now the president is just playing politics in order to, kind of feel good. It goes back to what Depo was saying. Going to the warehouse and seeing the rice there, completely different from going to the market and seeing the rice in the market, which is what the president didn't do. So there's this disconnect between the reality and the politics. Playing politics is one thing, and politics is not going to get you reelected. Feeding the people is going to get you reelected.
Thank you. Yeah, Ben.
Yeah, please, I want to come into what my good friend just said. You see, when George Weah shows up in the warehouse, for me, it's an exhibition of failure, total failure. We live in the modern world. Everything runs on data. George Weah don't need to go to a warehouse. The quantity of rice that Liberians consume every month should be known. Quantity of rice that are imported should be known. George Weah don't need to show up to a warehouse. This is disgraceful. We have requisite arm of the state that is responsible for rice. Commerce Ministry, they oversee importation. You tell me that they cannot provide numbers? They should have the statistics available. We should know the amount of quantity of rice in the country every minute. But this is a failure of governance. What that was just a show. It meant nothing, but it was disgraceful that the president would show up in the warehouse, say rice price will not go down. The president probably have no idea how many bags of rice are in Liberia right now. It's a failure. They are not managing the country well. Everything in this modern world runs on data. You must know the numbers. So even if I was going to show up there, I would have said, no, we have X amount of rice in Liberia and there shouldn't be shortage. And I should even know the importers and the quantity that they have. We have the requisite arm of the state that is responsible for these items. And we are letting them to just run past us like this. So, that was just a disgrace. That's just what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to add to that.
And in economics, the economists will always look at price control, supply and demand. So let me bring our resident economist in here. Mrs. Wu, we're talking about policy on rice so that it can be available at all times for our people. We know is our staple, and also it's a political commodity in Liberia. Do you see any policy backed by a plan and a budget to maintain this rice price? Not only the administration, but past administration. What do you know? You are muted, Devo.
Yes, one thing, the issue you talk about price control, it is not advisable for you to control why you don't have the ability to produce.
Interesting.
You can't control the price of rice when it is not commodity that you can produce. Mm-hmm. That's first thing. Whether the past administration or current administration making the decision, they have to look at that from the economic perspective, that your ability to produce give you the opportunity to make decision on the price on the market. And sometimes one of the main reasons why controlling price is very much volatile is that sometimes the import cost increment will also lead to an increase in prices. Mm-hmm. So it's not a variable that you can control. For example, right now, for the case of Liberia and across Africa right now, you will see the COVID-19 actually added additional costs to shipment. Freight costs around the world have increased. Mm-hmm. Automatically, there will be a transfer of that increment to price of gasoline, rice, and the rest of the commodity that actually ship from other part of the continent to go to Africa, and particularly in Liberia. Mm-hmm. So that is the freight costs will be increasing, thereby increasing the price of the commodity. There will be no reason why you will sit down and tell the president, let's control it, and you will control it in the next 6 to 5 months. With that, what you're going to be doing there is that, first of all, the business owner believe in profitability. If you feel that he's just breaking even, and know fully well that Liberia has this Liberia economy most seasonality in the movement of rice. Like dry season, you have a little bit of huge supply because of subsistence farmers have their food after production, and they can sustain that for like 90 days. Afterwards, you see that they completely out of food. So between March to August, the demand for rice is very high. Like that, if the guy does not have the ability to import additional freight, what will happen there? It will cause shortage and demand will increase. You cannot force him because he didn't have the ability to import. The next thing that there, again, in terms of the control, the rice price there is that you need to do that, for short term. You may want to come up with a discussion with the rice importers or others. Look, right now, maybe what we're going to be doing now is that with our program to look at agriculture sector growth plan in the next 6 months, we allow you and will provide you support or subsidy to import this quantity of rice. At the same time, all the program you have that have to do with donor funding or government funding, you now allocate and make sure that you make a right appropriation for the commodity that is highly consuming the economy. You finance it, the production of it. That is what will help you to save the state. Or you may want to also look at alternative commodity that could substitute of that. If it's possible to be produced in the economy, you finance it through donor funding or through private sector support. That's the only way you can stabilize the price. But to say that you're going to control the price, sitting down in office and say, look, you know what? The citizens are crying, reduce your rice price to this. It is impossible. Whatever past administration did, the current administration should be thinking that the economy is changing, the global economy is made affected. Besides that, production. In fact, climate impact alone, climate impact on the global economy is also reducing, food production. So you need to be taking into consideration all of these factors while you're doing the analysis in terms of price analysis to inform the government. So like Mr. Kofa said, what is very much important, the price analysis, Department of Ministry of Commerce supposed to be doing analysis globally to see, in fact, commodities that are coming in a country, you need to know the price at origin and price at destination to see the price differential and to see the freight cost. These things that can only help you to see, okay, we're not controlling it, but your price differential in terms of the freight cost should be not more than 100% or not more than 30%. That can be a range with the importers. But to say you're going to sit down and make a determination, say, no, do not sell rice more than $15, especially so at this time where Asia have declined in rice production and we had a problem of shipment costs, freight costs, it will be difficult. The government needs to finance agriculture and support it. Like I said previously, either buy equipment, make sure you encourage farmers to produce even backyard gardening, urban gardening. These are programs that they need to be doing. All the forests around Monrovia, you need to encourage people to say, look, backyard gardening, it should be mandatory. Everywhere, cleaning up, cleaning the city to go in line with what? Gardening. These are some of the practical things that you could do.
Thank you.
Encourage the citizen to produce. Thank you.
Thank you. Ben, please, few seconds there so I can introduce another segment here. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No. I just wanted to just say something. In regards to what our good friend just said. You see, when we are managing the state, we should have what we call strategic reserves. Now, I will just say this thing, and I want it to be clear. Government of Liberia should know the amount of rice that is consumed by Liberians every month, just 1 month. They can multiply that by 3 and establish what I call a strategic reserve. So they will put that amount of rice aside. So in case there are any disruptions anywhere, they can open their reserve and give Liberian access to rice at a safe price. Let me tell you that in the United States right now, there is shortage of gas, but here they have opened their strategic reserves. So the prices of gas that we have now, it shouldn't have been this way. But if they had no reserve, we would have been paying more. Government is all about planning. You have to have anticipation. You have to know that things do happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Let us introduce this other segment, folks. The economy does not lack uncertainty. Security becomes something major. If an investor is to come to invest in the country, it will help to grow the economy and create economic opportunity, especially things like employment. But when there's insecurity in the country, then investors will stay away. Even business people will not be able to expand because of the insecurity in the country. Does the budget address the issue of insecurity in our country, given the waves of mysterious deaths in our country? And I'm going to start with you here, Ben, because you are strong on security. According to our current budget, 2021, first of all, we have 44 million for security sector to provide security for our people. Now, in the 2022 budget, it jumped to 100 plus million. Now, those of you who are good at math, this might be about 60% increase. That is significant. Can we be guaranteed that this money is going to be managed and these mysterious deaths and insecurity issues in our country are going to be resolved, or what?
The first thing I would say is, when you don't have a plan, they say when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you something that most of us here don't know. In Liberia now, the cops we have, they are a little over, I think they are 4,800. Mm-hmm. Now, let me tell you this that will shock you. 65% of the cops we have in Liberia, mm-hmm. It's a key number, they are assigned in Monrovia County. 65% of all the police is a little over 4,000. They are assigned in Monrovia County. Now, what happened to the rest of Liberia? If 65% of our force constituted one thing, now you can say, well, we have a lot of people there. But you see, we don't have the adequate plan for training, for crime prevention. Let me tell you, Liberians, one thing. Nobody should aim to solve crime, because when you are solving a crime, you have somebody who are being victimized. The focus should be crime prevention. We do not have a strategy. Let me stress one thing. I said this thing a while ago. One of the core responsibility of UNMIL was to train and equip our cops. When UNMIL left Liberia, Liberians were literally begging for UNMIL to stay. We don't have the professional means, we don't have the capacity, we don't have the talents. We need to redesign this program. I would, just like what you said, Anthony, if Liberia is not safe, we would not be able to attract investors. Every now and then we have murders, we have cases that are unsolved. They gave the country a bad impression on the outside.
But one of the challenges they will tell us has been the issue of funding. Now they have a 60% increase in the allotment in that sector. Is that going to make any difference from your political perspective?
I would say it would not, because I don't see a competent program. I don't see a framework. I don't see a roadmap. So you can give them any amount of money. If they don't have the roadmap in terms of what they intend to do, nothing would happen. With Liberia, it boils down to accountability. We have to hire people, give them a job, and hold them responsible. Until we can do that, nothing will improve. Nothing.
Thank you. Mrs. Well, let me come to you. Security in a country will guarantee investors that their investment they're bringing into the country is going to be safe or secure. You as an economy, how big is this security concern, for investors in growing the economy? How big is that, and what can be done about it? And Larry, I'll come to you for the international image of it for investors. Mrs. Well.
Thank you very much. Security is very much important. Rule of law is the nucleus of everything that we do. Mm-hmm. In terms of investment, no one would take his cash to send it to any region that you expect hostility to take place at any time. And the next thing that there is that even those who domestic, entrepreneurs and business owners themselves, they have to pay high costs for security. That also be transferred into the price of the product or services they provide. Therefore, security has serious economic factor. The security of the state And also the stability of the state depends on the security as well. So what is important, interestingly, the security sector budget was increased, and two things that actually became a driver. According to the budget, it's talking about the recruitment of AFL, new recruitment, and also they talk about the 14 military hospital.
Right.
Now, when you look at these things, then the question there is that how do you look at the implication? Because in terms of extended threat, the military is true. It's good that we should increase the size of our military, but what is the extended threat so far that we have that will increase funding for military as compared to the police and national security, or in fact, technology in security itself? Why can't we expand the size of the police versus that of the military? The next thing that there is that you will see, as you can see right now in Liberia, the 2023 election preparation supposed to have taken into consideration security training, deployment of security, and what will help the stability of the state will also lead to peaceful election. So it's important, whatever increment that have been done to be affecting the police. But what is happening now is that instead of I don't know whether the police are really in full control, but what is happening, the reality in Liberia right now is that most of the police officers are assigned to government officials. And this is something I'm driving or riding keke. I wonder if all of the ministers are now assigned police officers, and then who take care of the citizens at night? Because once the police officer is assigned to his or her minister or boss, he either be assigned to his resident and don't control the community. These are some of the things that are increasing the crime rate. Lack of police presence. Even though Benjamin is saying that 65% deploy in Monrovia, I don't have the statistics to say, but if you check, even those that are assigned Monrovia, majority of them nowadays are now assigned with what? Ministers, speaker, deputy speaker, and everybody have convoy. So community policing has declined, and therefore crime rate are increasing in the community. So it's also increasing costs of living. So private security firms are being hired, and as a result, it's also increasing cost of doing business and also causing cost of production for most of these companies. It will be useful for the government to look at what have been appropriated to see how best they can take care of police deployment. In fact, technology deployment as well, because it's not all about physical, structure anymore, the manpower standing anywhere. You can have, police headquarters on bypass, and you still use your navigator to watch over Douala Market, Railway Market, and all these places without deploying more manpower, and take the rest of the manpower and deploy them outside of Monrovia by just using technology to control Monrovia crime. And that is very useful. You can invest into that, and that's part of the security.
And like you read, right? They say funding the operationalizing, funding for operationalizing the 14 military hospital is one of the key drivers for this $100 million they set aside for the security sector. I'm just trying to make sense of it. I know they said a military hospital, so for the military, how does that actually enhance the security in the country?
Good. That's why I saw it there myself. I was wondering. JFK is having electricity problems, having challenges. You having 14 military hospital. You got some military officers who are medical practitioners, but you also have doctors assigned there. I think the management in terms of the hospital should be something that will be done in collaboration with Ministry of Health. Instead of you making huge appropriation to the military hospital and leaving other facilities, because realistically, when I read it, I was wondering, is it what caused the extra 40%? If so, then what technology that is being used
Apparently,
is
they want to complete the military hospital because I don't see how it makes sense here. Anyway.
Maybe this place has become a referral hospital, or they want to make it of higher standard more than the rest of the places. But that's what the budget is saying. But let's say that, let me say this. If you got good analysts who going through to look at, impact analysis, cost benefit analysis of a budget, the first thing that they will ask to say, okay, it's going to cost an additional $10 million in the operation of 14 military hospital. If we put 10 million 14 military hospital, what would be the return? Are we going to train new doctors, or we put in new technology? If that's the case, what will happen in the health sector? If not, then we can reduce that amount and say, look, instead of putting in the military hospital, we can put this money into, let's say, equipment for police. It's still part of security. You can put that into transportation, patrol, fuels and lubricant. What will you do to keep the place safe instead of the hospital? Why if people got hit in a community in Nuclear Town, they can't go to 14 military hospital, no matter how well you equip it. It cannot save the life of the people. So I think that's our main priority. In as much as you see the AFL have been a very professional body, at the same time, we should not shield it as a cash cow and say we're giving them the money, and when they themselves are not taking pay and they themselves are not receiving the money.
Thank you. And Larry, I wanted you to have touched on, how this insecurity in Liberia is making the image of the country to look on the outside. But I want us to hold on to that because this aspect is very important. The police, when you see the uniform that they wear, they are not respected. They say they are increasing the security sector money up to 100 million. I'm still asking the same question, but I want you to focus on the police. Look at our police. People said they've been assigned to ministers and senators and representatives. They are not in the community. They are paid very less. The uniform alone they are not respected. Will this $100 million help to change things for these people to provide effective security for our people?
Yeah, when you have a situation where the police are being treated or being used as bodyguards as opposed to being used in the role they're meant to play, then you really don't have much respect for the rule of law, right? Mm-hmm. You're supposed to, and you see, when you look at the countries then who have dealt with corruption, when you look at they call them the three tigers, for example, these guys are pretty bad in corruption, the Taiwan, the Hong Kong, the Singapore. One of the lessons learned from how they improved their country was you have to pay people the right salary so they're not influenced by little bribes. Mm-hmm. Because if you want to strengthen the police, make sure the police are getting good salaries. Because why? They don't want to lose their job because they're taking a little small bribe from someone. They don't want to kind of lose their job because they need our money to or they want to make ends meet. The police is the first line of defense when it comes to ensuring security in the country, and it's so important. And one of the things that I'm seeing is that it looks like people, when we take you had the slide up, the young lady, Princess, mm-hmm. The unfortunate situation, the death of Princess. But it looks like the government tends to take action when people protest. When people start talking and protesting about certain things, then it would take action on that particular case. When people start protesting at the University of Liberia, the government would take action and pay salaries. When people start protesting at the nurses start protesting, then they take action to want to pay their salaries. When people start taking action, protest against what happened with Princess, then they start calling for forensic investigation. And that's not how it's supposed to be. Going back to what Ben said, to be more reactive as opposed to proactive. But here's the problem. When people want to invest in your country, foreign direct investment, no country cannot develop if you don't have foreign direct investments, right? If people want to invest in your country, they'll check the security sector to make sure that the people are not at risk. Look at what happened 3 weeks ago in Nigeria. You got Boko Haram, you got terrorists and storming trains. You have foreign oil executives being kidnapped in Nigeria. The situation with over 2,000 young people being kidnapped in Nigeria. But still, Nigeria still managed to inch along because what? They have oil. Same situation with all the violence in South Africa. We say we want to have a vibrant tourism sector. How can we have a vibrant tourism sector when you look at a U.S. State Department website and you see that Liberia is at a level 2 risk because of crime? You're not going to invite people in there. The only country that I know in Africa that has a pretty good security sector is Botswana. Botswana is on a level 1. Why? Because they have invested in the security sector. People are competing for foreign direct investments. What is our value proposition? What is it that we're offering to foreign investors to come to the country? We don't have light. We don't have a good security sector. The city is filthy. There's so many things that discourages people from coming to Liberia, but yet we are projecting 85.5 million in a budget, and we wonder how we're going to get that money. No, security is a major component of economic development. So when you see the country reacting to certain news events, it's all politics. It's that whole political economy again. They put money into something when it's political, when people are pressing them. If people like Senator Dillon then doesn't call for a second autopsy, will they do the autopsy? No, probably not. So we spend so much effort on politics and politicizing so many things that we spend very little on the development side of things. Again, going back to what Biden said, our budget is telling us what we have our priorities. It's not in developing the people. It's more in, promoting oneself. So we have an issue, but I would like to also hear what Prince thinks in terms of the safety in Liberia. Does he feel safe at night?
And that's why I'm about to come to Prince. Prince Mumba is the anchor there on the radio in Liberia, Prime FM 105.5. Prince, you are in Liberia. You talk to Liberians. You yourself, you travel in the night. How do you feel? What are Liberians saying with their insecurity and concern for their own safety, given the waves of mysterious death that have happened in the country? And you are a journalist. We've seen journalists being brutalized by security officer. You know the story about the gentleman at OKFM. Talk to me. How is the situation in the country? How are Liberians feeling?
Thank you, Anthony. It's good to be with you guys tonight. Well, the issue of security in Liberia is serious. Most of the time when we on the radio, we are worried to get home, simply because insecurity is on the rampage. The issue of mysterious death all across the country, especially the city. So it fears anybody. At night, you hardly see the presence of police. And even if you see a police officer, he or she is not protected before even he or she thinks of protecting you as a citizen. Because before a police officer protects a person, he or she is protected. They protect you. And so it's even, I remember I think some months ago, the 103 was on your radio. He was even flagging that ahead of the 2023 elections, that there's a need, the force will be picked up because the strength of the police are dropped. Remember when the Monrovia trained about 4,000 men and women in the Liberia National Police? That was in 2005, I'm not making mistakes, 2004 or so. And since then, we have not had any major training. And remember that there have been death, there have been resignation with volunteers within the force. And so we're talking between 3,000 or 3,005 men and women. And so, and the projection at that time was 10,000 men and women by the UN, if I'm correct. So the issue of insecurity is very serious, and it's on the lips of every Liberian. As I'm speaking to you now, it's about 10:30 in Liberia. If you get in the street, you're going to see the street completely empty. People leave the street this time by 8, 9. They get to their homes because we already have the issue of literacy, and then the insecurity issue. I mean, you get in a taxi, you are wondering and pray to God that you are not getting the wrong taxi. So it's serious.
And
it's
Prince,
very, very serious.
Prince, let's talk about the Zogo situation that we hear about. It's very serious. There have been, I know of 2 instances where the police and the Zogos have clashed. And still, the Zogos control their own areas, and the police are not taking control of that yet. And I hear citizens wanting the government to do something about this situation, to take these people out of the streets and ghettos and put them somewhere for rehabilitation. Have you heard any serious effort on the part of our government? You know, you are a media person. Have you heard anything that the government is thinking about? We're talking about budget now. You think there'll be enough money in the budget, right? For that kind of serious thing that threatens the future of Liberia? What do you know?
So, Anthony, I think you have the budget. You have read all the critical aspects of the budget, the various sectors that have to do with security, that has to do with their health, that has to do with agriculture, that has to do with education. And those are places I think the national budget should be focused. Because when the budget is focused on those areas, of course, you're not going to have people or officials of government saying that, look, I have to pay, I have to have scholarship scheme for students, I have to have take this person to the hospital because they came to my office once. The health center is been supported by the national budget. Once the educational center is supported, when the security has been, security center has been supported, improves logistical and every other means of fat salaries. Of course, we don't have the issue of insecurity. So to come to the we know how the budget looks like, whether it's realistic or can answer that question. So government has not done, in my opinion, government has not done much, in addressing the security sector, looking at the budget, and also even taking the practical steps, like you said. I mean, what the criminals who are not even armed as compared to other countries like Larry was saying, like Nigeria or other countries, who are not even armed with firearms, probably just machete or other things, then they will be able to challenge the national police and even control their own territory. It happens right here. Even in Central Monrovia, I'm talking to you. I mean, they are there. They sit there somewhere around the Ashmont and Randa Street or around the inner place. You pass it easily in the night. And they were classic there. And so government has not done much. I think everything boiled down to the security not being empowered, or the security not being well taken care of.
Thank you, Prince.
That is the core of the issue. If the police officer feels like he doesn't have arm, and you're not going to go to you when you're crying in the night, but if you have arm or is protected, of course, maybe you could take just one live bullet and the criminal will escape. But the man doesn't have anything on him. Like Larry was saying, even the uniform they wear, sometimes it is filled. The officer has to take his own money to buy his own uniform. And those are reality.
Larry, can you, and Ben, please hold on. Thank you, there, Prince. I mean, can you imagine police has to use his little pay to get his own uniform?
Yeah.
Where are we going?
Probably teachers probably even have to buy supplies too for classroom. So
the last time did you? I think I remember the Chief Justice was asking judges to improvise. This was said by him. Then quickly, we want to take a break.
Yeah, and then real last one, and then even in instances where we need current, what do we have to do? We have to pray for the rainy season.
Yes, can you imagine that?
The security issue. One area that is of concern that I don't know the 100 million whether they'll take into consideration the fire service. Imagine the fire incident we've had in 2021, 2022 have been much, and I don't know whether that will be addressed, but it's very important issue.
Yeah. Then quickly before
we can unbundle the 100 million and see where is it going.
All right.
Yes, you see, when we look at the issue that our COP face, the first thing I'll ask myself is, how did we get here? We broke down the state. We had this war. Socially, we broke Liberia down. And most of the people who came after the war to lead Liberia, because of the manner in which they are leading, we talk about, stealing, misappropriation, corruption. They know they are not doing the right thing. So they, to some extent, they are not investing in the cops. Because you see, if you have somebody with a gun, chances are, if I'm doing the right thing, this guy could overthrow the government. So there's some kind of apprehension in terms of fully equipping these people. That's why you see when UNME was there, everybody was okay because UNME won't do that. So we have cops on the streets who are armless, and we expect those people to apprehend people who commit crime. It is unreasonable. We have to lead the country in a good way so that there can be trust, between us and those who bear arms. And that trust will lead them to enforcing the law, because they are not leading well. They are even afraid of the police. They are afraid of the army. That's why we have those people there, but they are disarmed. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, folks. We'll be taking a break. And when we come from that break, we'll be taking calls, and we'll have time. We will go to some comments. Talking about what is in the budget, let me add this there so that our callers will be able to look at it. We're talking about county development fund and social development funds. What is in there for the people of Liberia compared to what is in the budget for the representatives and senators that represent the people of Liberia? County development funds and social development funds. Every county gets $200,000 across the board. And then social development fund, some counties don't get anything. Some social development funds, some counties get zero. Like my county of Grand Creek got $0. All right, for social development fund, because maybe no social activities or no company is in there doing business. So the total amount set aside for the counties in terms of development, social development, and county development fund is a total of less than 10 million United States dollars set aside for all the counties. Now, folks, compare that with what has been set aside for the lawmakers that represent the counties. The lawmakers' budget total jumped from $26 million from 2021 to $54 million. The people, representatives, getting more money. They put more money in the budget for themselves than they put in the budget for the counties they represent. So this is so sad. Folks, we'll take a short break. When we come back, folks, it's about time for you to call. And Prince, when we come back, you will be reading the number while I display on the screen.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jar.
And I am Anthony Sear, and we are back with you. I will now turn things over to our man Prince Mumba there, and on the radio there on Prime FN 105.5. Prince, it's over to you. Let's get some calls.
Thank you, Anthony. So the numbers to call, the number to call tonight is 0770-1051. 0770 is 0770-1051 is the number to call. You have to say on the program Focus on Liberia tonight on Prime 105.5 with the team from the US. We've been here since 9 o'clock. And of course, discussing Liberia issues, matter looking at the national budget, what is the budget for the people, and how realistic and touching the budget is to the Liberian people. So call on 0770-1051, 0770-1051 is the number to call and be part of the program. Also on the screen, of if you go on Facebook, Focus on Liberia, you're going to see it. So that's the number 077. Once again, 0770-1051, 0770-1051 is the number.
All right. Thank you there, Prince. And let me know if you get a call. So while we wait for a call, let me bring in some comments here quickly, gentlemen. Here from Evis. Do we even have police patrolling the streets at night? Is the police equipped with vehicles to patrol the street? I know for sure, yes, they have some people doing some patrol in the night. Whether or not they are equipped, that is sufficient enough to cover all the communities is another question that the budget should answer. I hope they'll
I had a
come.
caller, so I will just bring it. I had a caller here, so let me just.
Yeah. Let's take that caller. Let's take that caller, Prince.
Good evening. Hello. Hello. What's up, man? Wait, please walk away from your radio, please. Please walk away from the radio. So, Anthony, can you get the caller?
No, the quality there is poor. That person needs to speak louder and get a little.
Go ahead. Can you get in? Go ahead. Make your point. Can you get in now?
Yeah, it's better. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we all fought the war. So for now, we have money to find someone to be trustful here. You know, some of these police is even the government control and give them they will end up giving the so they don't have boys on the street so that they can go and harass citizens. So for now, we just have to look at it. Not only God can do for all now. But some of the police, they have a bad plan. Some kind of not, if you really clear maybe they don't want to take the arm, or they will kill it to this so-called. They go harass people for their own benefit instead of them protecting the citizens. So for now, only God can protect them.
Thank you for making your point. Thanks so much.
Yeah, it's all done. Even on the street now, you see, it's quiet. Yeah. But if again the government say let the police would again the citizens will be threatened because sometimes even here police will not it will end up taking out for me.
Thank you so much. We take call on 0770-1051. 0770-1051 is the number to call and to be part of the discussion tonight on Prime 105.5 FM. The program is focused on Liberia with our guys from America. Of course, discussing Liberia, looking at the national budget, also looking at other national issues. So call us on 0770-1051, 0770-1051. Anthony, you can go ahead. And I call, I will pick it up.
All right, thank you. And folks who are here in the US and want to participate, you know the number to call. The number should be in the scrolling text below. The number starts with 605-313-6004. Enter the code 791-703#. That number is in the scrolling text below, but if you can't see it, yeah, you have it. Again, sorry, that is the wrong one there. Yeah, it is. 605-313-6004. Again, 605-313-6004. Enter the code 791-403# to join the conversation. And that number is also in the scrolling text below.
Another caller is there, Anthony. Good evening.
All right, let's take that one.
Hello. What is your name? Where are you calling us from? Go ahead, make your point. Be audible. Yeah, you lie. Go ahead. But they tell you say AFS was being strict with arm. Is that what they told you? Why you think the police? Why they can't make it? Thank you. Thank you so much. The police can make it. I'm sure in the street. We'll take another caller here. Good evening. Good evening. What is the name? The person now say you have to work on the radio. You can't do this. You have the radio restaurant and call him. Go ahead, make your point. I'll cut you off. I'm telling you why you didn't say no radio. So where did the feedback come from? Go ahead, make your point.
Well, my concern has to do with the level of analysis that is shown by the guys from the U.S., into the country's security system has been very bad. It is true, Material debt to the country. But the manner in which it's been described, I think it's giving the country a image that it will not encourage investors coming to our country. We need to put it on okay with this. So as I speak to you, I'm sitting in an open area around the plant factory. I think this is moving to and to peacefully.
So the issue of insecurity in Liberia, you say is not true. What is a different hello? What is a different thing that we discuss that is not on this ground, that is not happening in Liberia yet? Because I'm also here. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you so much for making your point. You want to compare our situation with US. Thank God the book are current, we don't have current. Great. Call it on 0770-1051, 0770-1051. I don't know whether you do know the level university is insecurity. So you can pick it from there.
Yeah, I have a caller joining the US line here. That is Mr. Evis Morris. Morris, if you can hear me, you are loud and clear from my end here. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pierre.
Okay.
Quickly, before I even make my comment, I just want to say in terms of the issue of insecurity in Liberia.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine, in a rehab area, got family living there?
Mm-hmm.
The people put a burger up for the people. Somebody from the community stole a burger and said they hold it, season it for 1 week. Why they would say that? Why they would disconnect it and get other folk on the other side? These local boys, they stole that thing for 1 week. The people had to go pay them to give it back to them, and they ain't arrest those guys. Can you imagine? So let me get to my point real quick.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about the safety net issue, I think Professor Lara talked about it. I mean, in this great America, where the people say the American people are so rich, when you don't got way to feed yourself, when you don't mother and one child, you got way they got food stamps, will give you so much, for five, let's say in a liberation, let's take a rest to feed your child. What a guy in Liberia that can help the people, the poor people that they say they for poor. Well, oh my can't scare, you're saying a young daughter in the streets is scared. Young girls, especially, are very vulnerable to go when they have no other resort to find ways to eat. They go in the street and prostitute themselves. So, what kind of safety net program is the government providing to help the people who have absolutely no other choice to help themselves? Thank you so much for taking my call again. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Prince, do we have another one at your end?
Not yet. Let me get once more announce the number 0770-1051 is the number 0770-1051 is the number to call to be part of the program tonight.
All right, let me read a few comments here and bring the gentleman here in so that they can weigh in on the comments too. In Cape Mount, that is Emmanuel Jackson, in Cape Mount, the Social Development Funds, 1.2 million for Bear Mountain Gold Mining and a rock mining company is retrieved by the lawmakers who aren't transparent with the communities concerning the funds. All over the country, the people are losing their natural resources with no benefits from them. Gentlemen, take note of these comments. That is a serious piece of information there. Lawmakers going after the money of the people after they're giving themselves 54 million right there. This one from Amen K. Sirleaf. We are politicizing rule of law and security, national stability, rule of law, healthy, liberal, democratic, and happy societies are about respect of institutions, not individuals. This one from Amen again. Right is not a commodity which can be kept in reserve for a long period of time. If our government is not focused on agricultural development, then subsidized transactions cost for rice importers, he writes. This one is from Emmanuel. Commerce Ministry needs to open the rice market to Liberians as well, and not Lebanese vendors only. This is the lazy impediment delaying mechanized farming of this important staple of Liberia. He writes, I'm seen to be very basic here. He writes again, historically, no serious country has ever industrialized without having developed its agricultural sector. On the AU Agricultural Development Index, Liberia is amongst the lowest. Further, we have a bloated wage bill. I am told the budget is high on the expenditure side than the revenue side. No surprise there, he concludes. And then Jackson again, Emmanuel Jackson, the government has printed billions in the last few years. It is for money supply in the economy, or what is the word that he's using here? I don't know that word. Larry, you can help me there. What is the word there?
Seniorage.
Seniorage.
No, that's when government make profit by printing money.
Okay, yep. Seniorage practices, he writes. Thanks for the help right there. Let's hear from Morris here, watching from Minnesota. Mr. Kofa, what are your policy and what is your plan on raising the budget needed to meet your policy goals? If Ben answered that question, focus on Liberia, going to charge him for that. He's not running campaign today. Emmanuel Jackson again, going into an election year, and we have not conducted national census as to how we will raise the standard of living of Liberians according to the national budget. And gentlemen, that is something key there, right? Because we have a budget, we don't know how many people we are budgeting for. We don't have the actual number. Emmanuel again, to advance Liberia's political economy, we must start with real, transparent, accountable national budget, not made of allocation, itemizations, and accounting based on fictional figures. He couldn't be point on that. Larry, let's start with you. You just listened to a few of the comments I just read.
Yeah, so with all the things that we have going on right now in Liberia, everybody seems to be focused on a couple of key political events. Nobody seems to be focused on the major thing that will lead to development. Back in the 90s, and this didn't go all the way back even further than the 90s, here in the US, there's this whole diversionary technique called wag the dog. I don't know if you guys, there's a movie about it too. It's called Wag the Dog, where the president decided to distract the country from a political scandal by creating conflict, right? So we have a similar situation in Liberia where conflict has been created now amongst some of the political parties as a means to distract the country, distract the entire population from what is really going on, the poor economy, the lack of safety in the country. Because here's the thing, Emmanuel Jackson raised a good point. I would touch on that, and then I would swing it over to Depu and our guest. He raised a good thing. Right now, because we haven't conducted a census, we don't know the true number or close to the true number of the entire population. Because when you look at the true number of the entire population, you'll come to realize that, listen, there might be a greater percentage of Liberians that have become poorer over the past few years. Because when we start looking at the gross national income per capita, we'll see that because the population has increased, there are more poor people in Liberia right now, which goes contrary to the pro-poor agenda. And Elvis raised a good point too. We don't have no safety nets in Liberia. That's the reason why you have so many young people, rather than be in school, they're out there on the streets doing things they shouldn't be doing. And then you know how we failed in MCC Compact? We failed on so many aspects in terms of transparency, in terms of inflation, in terms of the percentage of our budget that goes to public education for women and young girls. We failed on so many fronts of that. So, yeah, I mean, we have this distractionary technique going on right now in Liberia called wag the dog. Everybody is chasing after that. After months and months, they're still talking about it when there are more important things taking place right now. The lack of electricity, the lack of good healthcare, education, the sanitation, all those things that need to be discussed. and find solutions to that. So I was swinging to Depu and our guest Ben so they can
Yeah,
talk about it.
and Depu, I want you to respond to this one as well. I meant Case Solive again to graduate off our dependency on foreign aid. Let's be serious about mechanizing our agricultural sector, my people. We are a rural country with an abundance of arable soil. He writes.
We have very rich soil. You can stand from a window, throw anything out there, and it will grow. But we don't have mechanized farming because why? We cannot get the equipment to Liberia because we don't have a means to finance it. Over here in the U.S., they formed something called the FFCB, the Federal Farm Credit Bank. And the Federal Farm Credit Bank, they do what every industrialized country does. They raise capital from the private sector as a way to help finance the agriculture sector. What good is a country with great arable land and we can't feed our people? You're not going to do anything if you can't feed your people, give them the strength to go to work. So you need a policy to build a financial sector to raise money from the capital markets to be able to finance the agriculture you're looking for. In fact, the head of the U.S. Treasury, Janet Yellen, came out this week and she said, look, the World Bank and the IMF needs to change their strategy because a lot of developing countries have debt crisis. Liberia is at moderate risk of debt. Ghana is at a high risk right now. We can't keep borrowing money from the World Bank or waiting for SDRs from the IMF. It's not going to work.
Thank you, Laura.
We need to change our strategy.
Thank you. I see Ben wants to go first here. Go ahead, Ben.
Yes, sir. My friend here raised a good point. You see, I mentioned earlier, and I want to emphasize this. Budget in Liberia represents failure and lack of vision. Let me say why. We do not have the available, what they call here empirical data that informs budgeting. Like my good friend just said, I can bet you now, government of Liberia cannot give a reasonable estimate. How many houses are there in West Point? West Point is right there. How many people live in West Point? You need those numbers to plan. When we share funds, they must be backed by the available data. They must be backed by numbers. But in Liberia, it's all guesswork. So my good friends, nothing will improve unless we go back to the basics. Let me tell you what we need. Number one, we need every house in Liberia. What is a broken down zinc house? It should have an address. House number 1, West Point, Zone 5, Monrovia, Liberia. Every house, every individual, every Liberian should have what we call should have what we call a unique identifier. Here they call it social security number. Once we have an address and we can uniquely identify people, we can know how many people live in America. When you move, they say after 2 weeks, you should go to your ID card place to change your address. What they are doing is they should know that one was removed from here and one was added to here. Those are what you call vital statistics. The government need them to plan, to allocate resources. So until we can have that, budgeting is just guesswork. We're just guessing.
Thank you.
Guessing.
And Devu, I think you have a student here watching, Samuel or Guano. I hope I got that right. Hey there, guys. My Professor Dizwo. How are you doing? Very long time watching you guys from Montreal, Canada.
Wow, that's good. Congratulations to be in Canada, Guano. But let me just look at 2 issues quickly.
Please.
I listened to the caller and Larry respond in terms of the safety net.
Mm-hmm.
For Liberia right now, one program that I'm aware of, and I don't know whether it's still effective, is the social cash transfer, and that is targeting few counties. In fact, a pilot project in 3 counties: Grand Coup, Bombing, and Cape Mount. And that is intended to give the older people, and that's World Bank financing that project. But I don't know whether it's still continuing on the ministry agenda. So that's the only program I know about that is at least a safety net for the older people. But
I think it's still ongoing.
It's still ongoing, but it's not across the country. Mm-hmm. So one thing that I can say here is that we're going back to, let me address the issue of the Social Development Fund. I don't know whether it's appropriate for me to go ahead with it now.
Go ahead.
Now, for me personally, this is my advice, and I've also given it to my county neighbor and other people. The first thing, the social development fund and the county development fund, in my mind, supposed to be separated. One is a political money, the other one is a social money. Co-mingling this fund have made a politician, because the comment from Cape Town clearly said that, have made a politician to have this as a cash cow, and they spend it at any time, and they use it, and there haven't been much achievement despite the money that have been given to the various counties. So in terms of appropriation, it is better. In our recommendation, which we made before, is to make sure that the county, the social development fund is managed by a private firm, but which of course the company that is giving the social development fund will also have, stake in it or decision making, and the appropriation and the target, the program priority will be outlined so that they can see the result of the money. But when you give it to politicians, the lawmakers to make decisions, they definitely look for a way that they can finance their own political activity and programs. You see all over the country, they talk about guest house, Palava Hall, conference. Those things are not social. That's not social development issue there. Guest house, Palava Hall, town hall meeting. These things are not productive for the citizen. Now you had a county development fund. For me, when we did assessment before, it was recommended you need to scrap it out. I know it's just a political cash. President Salih decided, look, instead of having everybody coming to the city, maybe it was intended to continue those local chiefs and other people from coming all of the time to make requests. But realistically, in 2012, I asked my students to do assessment on these things. Out of 15 counties, 13 of the counties project were incomplete. 15 counties, 13 project incomplete. Only one county, two counties that the student reported that these projects were completed. So the problem that there
from
is
the
that
county development funds.
From the county development fund, $200,000 is not substantial enough to undertake or to address the problem that the people have in the communities. The first thing, what issue are we addressing with the county development fund? It should be tied to certain things. You can't just say county development fund and put in the budget. Look, it's a long haul expenditure. When we're checking the budget, the total money that have gone to the various counties and to go see the impact is very limited. So it's in my mind, it's better for us to look for a way and say, look, we either cut it off or tie it to county development agenda, which are prepared before and say, look, the county has a development agenda, and therefore the national government is providing to so sector. And this sector, this money should be complemented and should complement this sector priority. Maybe let's say health sector. And they say maybe let the country identify its priority and implement it. Other than that, it's just, this is from acquire pageantry. By the time the lawmaker is not only in Cape Town or in Nima, everywhere you go, for them to go for county sitting, they decide who goes for county sitting. And they give the people pageant, and the people who they send to represent them are the people that they wanted to do their project. And sometimes the project is not vetted. The projects are not vetted. Most of the projects become incomplete because the same people who established a bogus company and gave the project to. So this whole that county development fund, social development fund, for social development fund is the people inherent. It's for their inheritance benefit. Their natural resources benefit. It should be given to them, but it should be managed by a private firm in partnership with the company, so that they can get results for their money. Now, lastly, let me go to the issue we're discussing about the security. I know one person called and said people who are calling from America. All of us, for me, I'm in and out. I live in Liberia. I know why it is. The security situation has reached to a point that we're not only concerned about investors, we're concerned about business owners in the country. Business owners in the country themselves are worried. Before then, one of the things that is happening there is that store businesses used to close by 7, 8. This time, they prefer closing at 5 o'clock to find their way to go home. Economic productivity, how many hours of sales will give you to generate money? These are people who do trading. If you got less hours sales, what will be the return? You have to take care of all overhead, the store rental, the store board pay, the salary, and the rest of it. These are things that are contributing to the insecurity problem that are also harming the economy. There's no electricity. Then people are rushing at night. So it's important for the government to prioritize this. I'm glad that they put 100 million, which is good number. But I don't know how far will this 100 million go to address some of the critical issue. And security is also part of, electricity is part of the security. We need to also prioritize electricity and make sure that electricity, once we have electricity, also give confidence to the community resident to know what is happening in the surrounding. But without electricity, it's difficult for us to also sustain the security officers in the street. They themselves, they are also afraid.
Thank you. Prince, any question for the panelists?
Yes, so I just just two. The
just
first one,
because of time, you guys have to get home tonight.
No problem. Till take care. We'll carry awesome. Yes, I have two questions immediately to the guest. So, the analysis you made on the national budget, the 2022 budget. So, from my understanding, I'd like to ask you, do you think the budget gets ambiguous but not realistic? That's the first one. The second one is, or you said that the budget is being crafted by the executive. It comes to the legislature for scrutiny and due diligence. The very legislature will also apportion the amount we're seeing at 54 million plus there for them. What different can you recommend if I'm told that you want to contest to be in the House? What do you think that needs to change? Because the very legislature we're talking about, the executive.
You're contesting to become president, not in the House of Representatives.
Oh, sorry for that. Oh, presidential candidate. That's great. So the very legislature, the Ministry of Commerce, the Ministry of Finance, they are all aware of those economic tools that you talk about. They're all aware of all of those things. What is responsible?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is thanks for asking me that, and I'm sorry that you misunderstood me earlier on, but I'm running for the highest office in the land. But let me say this.
That's great.
Now, you see, when the executive propose, that's why most time it's called a draft budget. When they propose it, the legislature, they have a responsibility. In, when you lead a state, you call something checks and balances. The legislature, they have the critical responsibility. That's why they have to debate the budget. Literally line by line. Let me tell you something. In the States, once you propose, Republican propose, Democrats will alter their own budget. They gave what they call alternate proposal. Republicans at times propose, Democrat. What I'm saying is the opposition also should have an idea in terms of where they want the country to go. They should have an idea. But in Liberia, once they propose it, I do not see what I call vigorous debate. I do not see the dialogue. I do not see emphasis on budget performance reports. Because when we are spending money, we must have a reason for spending money. So as it stands now, George Weah, this is the 4th year, he proposed a budget, and we see very little deliberations and the budget get passed. Then at the end of the day, we blame George Weah. We cannot blame him. It's a comprehensive approach. We have parties, we have political leaders. They should also have agendas. They should also have ideas in terms of where they want to take Liberia. And budget is also used to fund those ideas. So they have a responsibility here. It's on what I would call the leadership of Liberia. Government, parties, opinion leaders, even civil society. They have a right to say in the budget. Civil society. So it's all encompassing. Every year, Front Page Africa, I criticize the budget, but nobody listens. But when I get the highest office in the land, I will make it a consultative process. I won't just propose.
So what I want to join in there, sir, is that do you want to see more citizen involvement into the debating process of the budget? Do you want to see something like
I
that?
want to see more leadership involvement, the lawmakers as well as opinion leaders. They have a voice here. They can come and give reasons and say, no, they shouldn't be this way, they shouldn't be that way. Let me just give one case in point. Gafuan, years back, he's my classmate. I mean, the man came and said, well, I gave LU more money. So I called Gafuan and asked, I said, why did he give them more money? And he had no explanation. You don't just give more money. You gave more money based on the impact of the money that you gave previously. You don't just give more money. You have to give more money based on a reason. Okay, I gave this money to LU and they accomplished X, Y, Z, and I think that is good. We need to improve that, or we need to increase that performance. You don't just give more money. You have to have a basis for giving more money. So it will be a comprehensive project. It will be a comprehensive project. We will have stakeholders. We'll have people come in and say, well, what do you guys want? What are your interests? How can we move forward to align everything with my interest and my agenda? That's how we do it.
Thank you so very much there, Ben. Because of time, I will give my final question here, and I would like you to close with that, each of you. We have to get our crew here home safely. And that question is, Ben, you said that for years now, the budget has been structured this way. It's been implemented this way. More money for recurring expenses, that has been it. And it's been the central government just deciding it. And the government has been allotted on the basis of sector ministries and agency. That has now worked in terms of results for our country. There's this school of thought that maybe we have to try something this time, that the budget should be appropriated on the basis of counties more as compared to the way the government is structured. Does that make sense? Is that something worth trying? That we can say across the board, or each county is going to get $10 million. The county comes together and decide what to do with their money. And then the rest of the money now will be used for the central government operation. Let the counties take ownership of their own development. That is what I want each of you to close with. And let us start with Ben. He seems to be here.
I would say no, simply because of what we call population density. You don't have the same number of people living in each counties. Mm-hmm. But I would say partly yes, because if we give them enough amount and give them a clear blueprint, they can start things in those counties that can attract people that are in Monrovia to move back to those counties. So it's a yes and no, but I would design it in a way where it would be meant to engender growth, engender trade. So we will literally invest in those counties, like put investment there where people will move from Monrovia and go to Grand Coup to live there, because we have something operational that can ensure that they get there and get employed and get some kind of income. But I won't give everybody the same amount. That will not be fair. Because I will tell you this, Monserrato right now is Liberia. Everybody is there. That's why it should have it should have a serious amount.
The incentive there is when you decentralize the budget in terms of allocation on the basis of counties, the very people in Monrovia, they all come from the counties. They will be going back to the counties because they know now more money going to the counties. They might even want to live there.
That's what I'm saying. But you see, that process is not automatic. It's incremental, because it can be like you turn on the light switch. Because people are socially now, say like me, my wife and my kids, if we live in Monrovia, we can't just rise up and leave. I will have to go first, find a job, find a place before they can come through. So we will start a little bit small, start something like an investment. Mm-hmm. Government will be investing in those areas so that when we establish something that can sustain people's life, they will gradually move there. So it will be a gradual process. Yeah.
All right, Larry, you're closing on that question.
Yeah, I just said 2 points on that. Yeah, we definitely need to not only decentralize the government, we need to empower the counties by giving them the resources and letting them take control of their destiny. I would also recommend we probably set up another central bank in the country rather than have one central bank. Let's bring banking in another part of the country as well. There's a reason why there are 12 Federal Reserve banks here in the U.S. and not one. because when you have a Federal Reserve Bank centralized in one location, like how it was proposed initially to just be in New York, it's not going to work for the people down in San Francisco. So yeah, so there's 12 Federal Reserve Banks over here in the US. That's decentralized the economy. The budget right now is not credible at all. I think they're going to have one of the largest budget shortfall in the history of that country, because there's no way they're going to achieve 785.5 million, considering what's going on in Ukraine, the war in Ukraine, and what Depu also mentioned earlier. We have, there's inflation, there's global inflation right now. The US Federal Reserve Bank is taking action against that. The central bank just came out with their annual statement from last year. It's nonsense when you take a look at that. And we need to be discussing those things, but it's not being discussed. Why? Again, there's this distraction right now, and everybody's kind of chasing that tail instead of focusing on the key issues. Yeah, so decentralize the government, give the county the money. And I think I saw somewhere during the testimony at the Senate that I think the finance ministry is still holding on to some of the county's money. I think I saw that somewhere during the testimony when Dylan and team brought the Ministry of Finance to discuss.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
You did see that, Prince. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Finish, Prince.
Yeah. So that's true. I think since the inception of this government, the county development fund have been remitted to the counties just once, if I'm not making mistake, just one.
Wow. Even though they have had about 4 budgets now.
Yeah.
You see,
that is profound.
That's what I'm saying.
Thank you. Thank you, Larry. The issue of decentralization is ongoing. They already done that in terms of the policy and the law. One thing, the fiscal decentralization is supposed to also take effect, as we speak. But one of the things that there is that why can't we do it gradually? Because we all, with the limited resources we have to sustain for county to sustain its own budget will be a difficult thing. The county service centers that were established to ensure that they do collection and management of the financial services in the counties. To maintain those since the donor funding decline is a challenge. So with limited resources, how will you be building another structure on the side? For me, I think what is very much important now is to see that the budget should be very responsive to development needs and priorities of the people. There are certain things in terms of local development, you need to incentivize certain area to depopulate the city of Monrovia. Just say, for example, that the budget, I see the military hospital is good, but why can't we say for healthcare services for long-run productivity of the health sector? You're training manpower, you're training health workers. Is it possible that the county major referral hospital or the clinics area, the health centers should have nursing headquarters, residential area that will keep these workers in there with their family, that they don't have to run to Monrovia because of living conditions? Are there possibility that our officers like immigration and tax collectors will have residency at the location of assignment, that he or she will not be struggling, and because of cost of living, he cannot take the assignment, he'll move back to Monrovia? Sierra Leone is doing that. Cote d'Ivoire did that long time, but Sierra Leone has done that. Ghana has done it. Gambia, in fact, check at such Gambia budget before coming. These are things that this country, instead of mentioning United States all the time, we just look around us and see how best we can look at our neighbors. When you do these things, what you're going to be seeing there is that you are doing a decentralization to make sure that these structures are there to sustain the employees, the civil servant. It gave them confidence that, okay, I'm going to go live in a very good quarter as a security officer or a nurse or a teacher. That itself will help them. Other than that, we keep giving the money, say county development fund. These things are not helpful. And with the influence of the lawmakers, and they have exclusive right and control over this money. So we can now see that despite the $3 million given as county development fund, if you check, very less impact. And if they owe the other countries, I don't know where they will get the money to pay them back. But it's important that we review our budgeting process. The good thing here is that the MTF process, medium-term expenditure framework, which was actually enforced from 2012, it was later on stopped. This government had decided that they will start implementing that from this year, meaning that you have a medium-term 3-year plan and pay up the line item for annual expenditure or projection is done, so that some of the program can be taken care of. And that's some of the best way we can solve our problem. We have huge problem. We cannot solve it all in one budget period, but we have to be very careful how we manage the limited resources we have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Depo Zuo. Thank you, Lara Kennedy, and thank you, our guest, Benjamin Kofa Fania, 2023 presidential aspirant. He told me I am the only person running for president with a website and plan hook up on our website. The rest are all noise makers. That's what he said. Folks, this is how we will come to the close of yet another edition of the program, Focus on Liberia, being broadcasted on Prime FM 105.5. My name is Anthony C. I will turn things over to my partner there in studio there in Monrovia, Prince Momba, for our official closing. Prince.
Thank you. So let me say thanks to our listeners and our viewers across the globe. This is how we come to the end of this program. I just want to say thanks to the team in the US and those that follow us via the radio here in Liberia and the internet. This program comes on this station Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday for now. Just a month from now, we're going to be on all weekdays. So that's just my closing comment. And I hope that all the good plans will be transformed to reality one day. Liberia can become better.
Thank you. And so with that, the song, We Are All Liberians, will take us home. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
We are Liberia.
Thank you, Prince.
Liberia is our home. Liberia people. Liberia.